Faux, or decorative finishes, not only change the appearance of your room with color, they also add texture and pattern for a unique look. BEHR offers two popular faux finishes, Venetian Plaster and Faux Glaze. Faux finishes are not applied in the same way as traditional paint, so let's take a look at some of the application techniques. BEHR Venetian Plaster produces an attractive and elegant three-dimensional finish that enhances both the light and dark tones of the same color. To begin your project, you will want to clean and prepare your walls and protect your furniture. For a complete explanation of how to prepare your room for painting, see the BEHR How to Paint Interiors video. The application items shown here are unique to a Venetian plaster project. You will need a flexible 4-inch steel trowel, 100 grit and 400 to 600 grit sandpaper, a deep well paint tray, BEHR Venetian Plaster, and optional Venetian Plaster top coat. Venetian plaster should be applied only over primed surfaces or surfaces previously painted with an eggshell or lower sheen paint. Begin your project by rounding the corners of a flexible steel trowel using 100 grit sandpaper to reduce edge marks during application. Load BEHR Venetian Plaster onto the steel trowel and start at the top corner of your wall. Holding the steel trowel at a 15 to 30 degree angle, spread a thin layer of Venetian plaster onto the surface using long and short random strokes. The original wall surface should peek through in certain areas. Wipe off the steel trowel often to avoid dry bits of Venetian plaster from affecting your pattern. Continue this process until the wall is completely covered. Allow the first coat of Venetian plaster to dry for 4 hours before applying a second coat. Returning to the project starting area in the top corner, apply a thin second coat of Venetian plaster over the previous application. Hold the steel trowel at a 30 to 60 degree angle and use long and short overlapping strokes to achieve an irregular look of the final finish. Fill in voids and recessed areas while covering the original wall surface completely. Smooth away any edge marks or high spots with the trowel. Continue this process until the entire surface is covered. The next step in the process is burnishing. The finish should dry for a minimum of 24 hours before burnishing. However, you want to burnish within 7 days of applying Venetian plaster. To burnish Venetian plaster, use 400 or 600 grit sandpaper to rub the complete Venetian plaster surface in a circular motion. Heavy pressure will burnish the surface more quickly. Wipe with a slightly damp rag to remove plaster dust. Burnished BEHR Venetian plaster should have a smooth, polished look. Once sanded, use the flat side of a clean steel trowel to rub the finish for an added polished appearance. In high moisture areas such as bathrooms and kitchens, or in high traffic areas like hallways and entries, BEHR recommends protecting your finish with Venetian Plaster Top Coat. BEHR Venetian Plaster Top Coat is a clear, protective coat that prevents moisture and wear from damaging the Venetian plaster finish. Be sure to burnish your Venetian plaster finish as described prior to applying Venetian Plaster Top Coat. Apply the top coat using a clean, flexible 4-inch steel trowel with rounded edges. Hold the trowel at a 30 to 60 degree angle and use long and short overlapping strokes. Thinly spread the Venetian plaster top coat onto the newly prepared Venetian plaster surface. To avoid puddles in recessed areas, apply only thin coats of Venetian plaster top coat. Wipe off the steel trowel often to avoid product buildup. Venetian plaster top coat will dry to a satin sheen and may enhance or slightly darken the color of the Venetian plaster finish. The result is an aged, marble-like look with style and elegance. One of the most versatile decorative finishes is BEHR Faux Glaze. Faux glazing techniques create decorative illusions that will enhance any room. With endless color possibilities, glazing can create the look of classic fabric and line effects, sponging effects, and leather or suede looks that add rich depth and dimension. Applying one or more colored glazes over a new or existing base color easily creates a faux glaze finish. To begin your project, you will want to clean and prepare your walls and protect your furniture. For a complete explanation of how to prepare your room for painting, please see the BEHR How to Paint Interiors video. The items shown here are unique to a BEHR Faux Glaze finish project. You will need BEHR paint for the base color and for the top glaze color. You will also need faux glaze, a plastic bucket or container for mixing, and implements specific to your desired technique, such as sponges, rags, a whisk broom, etc. A faux glaze color scheme combines a base paint color topped with a glaze in a second color. You may select any base paint color you wish from the BEHR color palette. The base paint color can be applied in any sheen. Higher sheens, such as semi-gloss, increase the working time. That's the amount of time you have to make patterns on your wall before the glaze dries. The glaze color, which will be your top color, is a mixture of faux glaze and BEHR paint. Any color scheme can be used to create your perfect look. Adding a small amount of faux glaze to a BEHR 8-ounce sample is a great way to choose colors and practice techniques. We're going to demonstrate several techniques in this video. You can also visit BEHR.com for even more ideas. Begin by painting the base paint color. Remember, full instructions on how to paint can be found in our BEHR How to Paint Interiors video. After painting your wall, let it dry before glazing. For this project, we painted 2 coats and allowed it to dry overnight. Next, prepare the glaze color. A glaze color is a 4:1 ratio, 4 parts of BEHR Faux Glaze to 1 part BEHR paint. For an average size room, take 1 gallon of BEHR Premium Plus with Style Faux Glaze and add 1 quart of Premium Plus Ultra Paint and Primer in 1 or Premium Plus paint. Stir thoroughly. You are now ready to apply faux glaze using your choice of technique. A fabric or line technique creates a look of elegant linens or fabric variations of color on the wall or ceiling. The finish can be applied vertically, horizontally, diagonally, or in random line patterns. You will need a handheld whisk broom, dry brush, or other implement, and a 6-inch mini roller. A dry whisk broom, or almost any dry brush that's 4 inches or wider, will create a basic line effect. The softer the brush, the less pronounced the pattern. On smooth walls, a notched trowel will create stronger, bolder patterns. Also, a lighter touch will create a delicate look, while applying more pressure will make the pattern more pronounced. Dip a quality 4-inch wide nylon and polyester brush into the colored glaze mixture from the bucket. With your brush, cut in around the perimeter of your working surface. Start at a top corner and continue along the ceiling and around the baseboards. Then, pour the colored glazed mixture into a paint tray and work a 6-inch mini roller into the glaze until it is fully loaded. To remove excess glaze, roll the tool on the ribbed area of the paint tray. Next, starting at the top corner of your project area, roll the colored glaze down the length of a surface in a 3-foot wide vertical section. Faux glaze has an open working time of approximately 15 minutes. Working at a quick and steady pace will help avoid the development of hard lines. While the glaze is wet, drag the dry brush, whisk broom, or other implement over the vertical section from top to bottom. Wipe off your dry brush with a cloth rag or a paper towel after each pass. If you want the look of lines, continue this process, overlapping and blending each section to avoid hard edges. For a fabric pattern, before the vertical lines dry, overlap the texture horizontally by dragging the dry brush or implement from left to right on the wet surface area. Repeat the process all the way down the section, overlapping each drag with the next. Continue working in 3-foot wide vertical sections. Overlap and blend each section as you go to avoid hard edges. Stand away from the wall and preview your work periodically to ensure an even look. Repeat the process until the project is complete. Now that we have finished one room, let's take a closer look at some other techniques. To use a sponge-on technique, you'll need a sea sponge and a bucket of clean water. First, paint your wall with base color and allow it to dry. Prepare the glaze color as described earlier. Use a paintbrush to coat a water-dampened sea sponge with the glaze color and blot any excess onto a clean cloth or rag. Apply the glaze color onto the wall surface, creating random patterns by rotating the sponge as you blot. Remember, faux glaze has an open working time of approximately 15 minutes. Working at a quick and steady pace will help avoid the development of hard edges. To keep a subtle pattern, do not squeeze the sponge or push down too hard onto the wall surface. Continue across your wall until the entire surface is covered. Another popular look is the sponge-off technique. To do this, you'll need a C sponge, a bucket of clean water, and a 6-inch mini roller. Begin at the top corner and roll the glaze color onto a 3-foot section of the wall. Use a water-dampened C sponge to dab the wet glaze color off the wall surface. Blot and pounce the sponge quickly, from the wrist to the fingers, at varying angles to reveal a random pattern. And be sure to rinse out the sponge often. Faux glaze has an open working time of approximately 15 minutes. Working at a steady and quick pace will help avoid the development of hard edges. Roll the glaze color along the edge of your 3x3 section and blend each completed sponged-off area into the newest section to avoid hard, overlapping edges. Maintain a wet edge as you work across the surface. This means you should join sections while they are still wet in order to avoid hard edges. Continue until the entire wall is complete. Now step back and enjoy your new faux finish. Remember, there are more techniques available on BEHR.com. The best results come from the highest quality products. Good, better, BEHR.